Welcome back to Mixtape 51. I'm Jade, and on this channel, I discuss everything photography. On this one, I thought it might be helpful to discuss the X100VI and what is kind of frustrating to me that it doesn't have compared to something like the X-T5. To give you some context for this video, I started with the X-T3, which has a special place in my heart. I'm filming on the X-T4, and I also use the X-T5. And I thought the X-T5 would be kind of the best fit because the 100VI has the same sensor and processor, and I thought that would just be the best one to compare to. I've had the 100VI for a bit now. I really love to do street photography, so that's the perspective that I'm coming from, and I've been able to do some street photography with the 100VI. A lot of these videos that I do are trying to talk to my younger self and help out that person that is trying to figure out where to spend their dollars, especially nowadays with tariffs, inflation, especially tariffs, and that extra tax that gets passed down to us that we're paying now on items like Fuji gear from another country, at least if you're here in the US. Everything has gotten quite expensive here, and I know for a lot of people, it's going to be one of those things of asking yourself, is this camera worth it? And is it a good fit for me and how I like to shoot? And so I'm hoping that this video helps you with that, because I know that can be the biggest struggle. It's just figuring out. All right, let's talk about buttons. And you'll immediately notice here that on the X-T5, you have selector buttons, or also known as D-pad, as where on the 100VI you do not, which for me was a big bummer, because the selector buttons are a great way to set up shortcuts. And I actually have 4 shortcuts set up, one for each button. So unfortunately, because of that, you're more limited on the 100VI as far as not having these buttons to create shortcuts with. And while we're on the topic of buttons, the other thing that I noticed once I got the 100VI is how much smaller the buttons are compared to the XT series, especially like the Q. The Q button is a real big difference that you notice, and I much prefer the larger buttons myself. Card slots. The XT series of cameras have 2 card slots, so you've got some redundancy, a backup, as where the 100VI only has 1 card slot. This is definitely going to be more if you're trying to use the camera for professional purposes. But still, if you've gone on a trip somewhere, you don't want to lose your photos from the camera that you spent $1,600 on. I think it would have been nice if they could have added a second slot, but only 1. Battery power. The XT series, going back to the X-T4, utilizes the newer, larger battery pack, as where the 100VI utilizes the older generation that is smaller. Now, on this generation, according to what Fuji says, you're going to get approximately 310 shots, and this pack, you're going to get approximately 580. This is definitely an improvement when you're out and about. You for sure notice it. And this one makes it so that you're not having to buy as many extra packs to bring along with you. Ergonomics, and I hope you can see it, but with the X-T5, you have a lot deeper bump here. But even the X-T4, X-T3 have a decent sized bump here as compared to the 100VI, which I ended up buying like right away this case for that has a really good bump to it so that I could feel confident in not dropping the camera when I was shooting with it. One other thing too to note here with regards to the sizing and shape of these 2 cameras, I was thinking that the 100VI, because it's really catering to people that are, I feel like, traveling, I mean, from my perspective, or also people that are more on the go, I was thinking that this would be a lot more pocketable sizing. And from my perspective, I mean, I've got a bigger lens on here than you have on the 100VI, but at the same time, neither of these are pocketable. You would need some sort of small case. I mean, maybe if you've got a jacket or something with a large pocket, you could get the 100VI in there. But I think that would be true for the X-T5 as well if you bought the pancake lens. because as far as the width, height, and depth and all of that, they're just not that far off from each other from my perspective. And as well, I weighed both of them. So the 106 with the current setup here, without the case, I took the case off, but I left on the thumb grip and the lens hood here thing that I bought. It's coming in at 551 roughly. And if you add the case to it, I'll show you here. If you add this case to it, it's now at 625. And then the X-T5, which is currently got the 35 millimeter 1.4 on it, that's coming in at 772 grams. So, I mean, they're just, again, not that far off from each other. And also, this isn't even a pancake lens. If you put a pancake lens on here, you're going to be very close to the 106 weight. And so that's another thing where I was just thinking you would get a lot more savings on the size and the weight. But the 106 has made some compromises, like the D-pad that I had showed. And I don't understand why. I should reference also that I'm not a designer, of course. I haven't broken into this to see what kind of space there is or isn't. And so, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, but just from what I can see from the outside and also as a consumer, I guess I'm just trying to express that what I wish was there. And from my perspective, seems like there's enough space for it. Let me move on to the next one. For me, one of the biggest reasons I purchase a camera and don't just use something like my iPhone is the flexibility of the screen. And with the 106, this actually is one of the biggest things that will make it so that I may sell this camera, because it does not actuate vertically. So as you can see here on the XT, and this is for every XT, the 3, the 4, and the 5, you can move the screen vertically, which is a huge advantage. It makes it so that you're able to get those unique angles and compositions without having to get on the ground if you want. If that's where, let's say, the optimal light is coming from that really adds to the story or your composition, you can just hold your camera down low and tilt up the screen vertically on the XT series. And unfortunately, on the 106, you cannot. And going back to what I was previously talking about, as far as these bodies not being very far off from each other with their size, I mean, again, if this was super pocketable, I could see where, you may have those physical limitations and have had to make the decision like, oh, we can't go vertical with the screen. But this camera body is already pretty chunky. It's not pocketable. So why not add in the ability to go vertical? It just adds so much more functionality to the camera as opposed to leaving it out. And so that was one of my biggest disappointments with the 106 when I got it and shooting with it, where I've come up against it multiple times now where I'm frustrated that I can't go vertical with the screen. And maybe it's one of those things where they'll make updates down the road and they'll add it in. But I just wish they had done it on the 6 because, like I said, it may be one of the big reasons that I end up selling this camera. It's an obvious one to talk about as far as the lenses, but I really wanted to touch on it because it's going to be another one of those things where I ultimately am going to more than likely sell the 106 because I hands down prefer the flexibility of being able to change out your lenses, not only for photography, but as well for video. And from a street photography cityscape perspective, I'm switching out my lenses all the time, depending on the weather, depending on whether I'm shooting in the day, whether I'm shooting at night, what the subject is that I'm going for. I mean, I changed this out with the 35, the 16 to 55, so I can get everything from a wide to a zoomed in image, the 55 to 200 when I'm really wanting more detail stuff, and as well having the flexibility to get faster lenses. This 35 is an f1.4, as where you are stuck with an f2. Albeit an f2 is fantastic and very fast. But you can get the 50 millimeter at f1 for the X-T5. You know, I mean, let's say you're maybe shooting a concert where the lighting is really dark and you need that faster lens. You have the flexibility to do that with the X-T5. Now, to try and be fair, I thought I would also give some examples of where the 106 has some things that the X-T doesn't. And one of the big ones is the viewfinder here. So this viewfinder is both optical and electronic, which you can switch between, which is a really cool feature. As where on the X-T series, it only has an electronic version. You can't switch to an optical version, which is very retro and kind of takes you back to, you know, vibes of cameras back in the day, which I love. Minus the fact that, tragically, I primarily use the screen nowadays because I'm always trying to get some more unique angles for compositions. And I was hoping that I would end up using this more, the viewfinder on the 106, but so far it's just like when I use the X-T series, I'm primarily using the screen that is flexible and has all kinds of angles to be able to utilize. But still, I think this is a very cool feature and something to take note of over the X-T series. The other thing that is unique to this camera, the 106, is the built-in 4-stop ND filter. So I've put it as a shortcut for swiping up, and that's the ND filter on, and that is the ND filter off. It is such a cool feature, especially for someone like myself that likes to take images with long exposures, slow shutter speeds. It's a very, very cool feature, something that I wish the X-T line had built in as well. That would be like the dream. But unfortunately, the X-T does not have it, and the 106 does. Now, something that I don't really use at all ever anymore is a flash. But I still wanted to mention it that the 106 does have a built-in flash, in case that's something that you like to utilize. The X-T5 does not have one, and the X-T series used to come with them. You used to get one with the X-T3. They would give you like an external one that you could use, which I never ended up using. But they don't even supply that anymore. So are you team X106 or are you team X-T5 or maybe X-T camera? And by the way, please let me know, what do you shoot? What matters to you most? It'd be great to hear it down in the comments. What really resonates for you and the subject matter that you like to shoot. I have to say, if I had a budget around $1,600, I think the direction I would go is something like a used X-T4 with a smaller lens, so that you get the best of both worlds. You get a camera that you can grow with because it has more capabilities in the long run as far as the dual card slots. In my case, I really, the vertical LCD screen is a huge thing for me. But yeah, it'd be great to hear from you guys. I hope this helps you with your budgeting and trying to figure yourself out, being that that's the biggest thing. And as always, thanks so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. All right, bye.